Welcome to the Backyard Professor Responds videos. Steve Bassett, UFO expert, Netflix man, has been working with he's got the paradigmresearch.org group. He's been on this subject for decades. He has been an actual person involved in Congress trying to get the UFO disclosure to occur. He's gathered a numerous amount of serious experts on the UFOs. He just recently had an interview where he shares several different ideas of the history, the philosophy, what is the context of the UFOs, why today are we justified right now at the end of 2024, why are we justified in being excited about this topic all throughout the course of next year, when, quite frankly, we have not had full disclosure. Steve shares a lot of ideas on this. Let's get going on this. He is a remarkably insightful man that I am enjoying learning from. Let's have a listen. He is being interviewed by a real nice guy down the rabbit hole. The UFO phenomenon, why 2025 could be the year of full disclosure.
Believe me. No. I just knew that it was engageable. Now, how long it might take, I did not know. And over the years, I've had various degrees of optimism. But I always understood that this was the most profound issue in human history, that it was heavily protected by major forces, that it was embedded in the national security state. And therefore, the idea that you give a few interviews, a couple of witnesses come forward. No, I never had that illusion. But as an activist, and that's really what I became, what I'd always wanted to be, but never really did. I dabbled, but I didn't get serious. I got serious. And as an activist, I always understood that you always pursue the goal. You always try to protect optimism and provide a basis for people to engage it. You just can't go to people and say, there's a chance in hell we're going to get this done, but let's give it a shot. No. But you always try to be truthful. And I have followed that.
That's the goal for us. Good overarching philosophy. I personally enjoy his optimism because that's my approach as well. The optimistic end of things. Sure, we have setbacks, and yes, it can be discouraging when things don't go our way all the time, but that does not mean this is a waste of time.
This is not then. This is now. And the interest and the engagement of the issue is at unprecedented levels. So this broke into a lot of media. Rumors developed that there were very unhappy people in the Department of Defense about this, which tells you right away it's probably real, because if it's not real, they could care less. But even more important, the House Oversight Subcommittee was wanting to do another interview. And they wanted to do another hearing, and they wanted to broaden it. And so they had Elizondo, all right, and they had Gallaudet. That's fine, but they wanted more. And this story was breaking, and they were able to go for it. And they brought Schellenberger in. This is very significant. Now, Schellenberger is coming from a different place. He's a journalist. He has different restrictions on him. Government-type witnesses who have worked in classified projects are restricted by what they're allowed to say or not to say. They don't want to break the law if they're smart. And so, and there are things they can say publicly that they can't say, that they can say in a secured compartmental information facility, a SCIF. Schellenberger has a different restriction. He has the ability as a journalist to keep sources confidential. And so a lot of people maybe got a little confused there. So he's testifying about this case in front of the committee and being broadcast around the world. And so I don't think there's too many people out there that thinks that the USAP program, Immaculate Constellation, is a figment of somebody's imagination. It is essentially a named USAP dealing with the tech in a number of ways. Okay. And therefore, it's been outed. And that's a big deal. And
see, I think this is important for a very important reason as well, is because so many of us tried to imagine that the hearings held on November 13th was for us, the public. They weren't. It wasn't for the benefit of the public at all. And so there was a lot of whining and wailing and gnashing of teeth, tears and bitterness, and oh, this will never happen. They're all fake witnesses, etc. Not at all. Here we have a veteran UFO researcher and warrior out in the field for his entire life. And he says this thing was extremely useful and powerful. Let's keep going and let him explain it. I thought this was quite remarkable.
And then you had, again, Mike Gold, who had a varied career raising a number of issues. So what you had here, you didn't have what I would call the really exciting piece of evidence that Grush had, which is pretty profound. And ultimately the key evidence, which is we have tech, we have bodies. What you had is 4 highly accomplished professionals addressing the issue with very overlapping ways that are reinforcing each other in front of a lot of people watching and around the world. That's very powerful. Now, the people that have been engaging in this issue for decades, they're not satisfied with that. They really bothers them because they know this. Hell, I know there were ETs here when I was 18 years old. I knew Roswell was real 20 some years ago. And so they want the smoking gun, right? As one common person told me, they want me to bring a ET out on a gurney, right? And show it to the world. No. So they're unhappy and they're complaining and everything else. They're missing the point.
That's all of us on YouTube who complained on November 14th that these hearings were a complete waste of time. It didn't accomplish what it should have. We all missed the point. This is deeply profound. Here we are now on December 10th, almost a month later, and this analysis is coming out, and it's given me a whole new reason to continue researching, sharing, and enlarging this whole UFO discourse, because that hearing, November 13th, was not for us. And it was a huge success. Let's keep listening. This was very encouraging to me personally.
To the world. No. So they're unhappy and they're complaining and everything else. They're missing the point. These hearings are not for them. They're not for me. They are to help solidify and establish the truth of this issue for the larger public in order to set up, ultimately, the confirmation of this issue, which the fundamental confirmation must come from the head of state. It can't come from some Air Force officer or some undersecretary. It's got to come from the head of state. Once that happens, all the doors become unlockable. And so that is what is happening. And it achieved that, definitely. And it will open the door for more witnesses to come forward. So that's the first thing to say. The room was packed. They had to add more chairs this time around. And then the overflow room where people watched on film, that was packed. Every time one of our known people in our world, whether it's like James Fox, the documentarian, showed up, was walking down, the hall. They were mobbed by people. They wanted selfies, autographs. The excitement level was great. It was people were excited. It was very, very powerful. And one of the most significant moments for me, which did not happen last, was when the witnesses walked into the room to sit down at the table. Everybody in the room applauded, and everybody watching that hearing live heard that applause. That was a very important moment. And that's just a glimpse of what happened yesterday. It was a very significant event.
This is the difference between Steve Bassett and the Backyard Professor. I'm not seasoned. I don't have decades of experience under my belt. I was optimistic for the hearings, but I didn't realize the full significance, as Bassett will continue explaining, and then moves on into the historical contextual matters. These hearings, November 13th, is assuring that full disclosure is inevitable. Maybe not when we want it. Like November 13th, yeah. Maybe not. But it puts keys in certain locks that are now able to be unlocked, furthering this process. And I know there's a lot of people who don't like that. That's just too bad. This doesn't get to happen the way the public thinks it should. This is going to happen along the lines of law and order, or else maybe the ET themselves will come and give full disclosure if we humans muff it. But along with Danny Sheehan and many others, this is going to happen. And the amazing thing is, we are going to be alive to see this. Very cool times in the next 3 to 5 years. That's my saying it. Bassett seems to be even more optimistic than I am. He says things are beginning to really move faster, and I get it. We've all heard that too. Oh, it's a yawn fest and all that. None of this is for you anyway. If you are of that attitude, it's not for you, so tough luck. This is for the legal process so that it will hold. And when the chief gives full disclosure, that's when we'll have access to all the really good evidence. Until that day, you're going to have to keep yawning. And I guess we're going to have to put up with it. We're going to keep sharing more information as we can, giving historical weird stuff, philosophical weird stuff, religious angles, etc., filling in the gaps, continuing to completely learn about this incredible subject while the disclosure process occurs exactly as it has to occur in order for it to be the most effective. And it's not to satisfy the whims of we public. I'm sorry to disappoint you, but that's not what it's going to do. So
I love what you shared about the impact of having a journalist in the panel can have. I find it really interesting.
Limited number of journalists who have really gone after this issue. Not many. I'm not talking about the ones that maybe have done a story as a reporter in paper. There have been thousands of those, no question about it. But in terms of getting at it, what we'll call investigative journalists, very, very few. You can name them on the fingers, well, maybe 2 hands. You've got Leslie Kean. You've got Ralph Blumenthal. Now you've got Schellenberger. You've got Micah Hanks. And I think one or two other journalists at the debrief. I know I'm leaving some people out here. Oh, well, you've got Ross Coulthard. And there's a few, but it's not many. And the really big shots, the big one, what I call the heavy duty ones, they won't go there. I long ago, I had a brief phone call with Cy Hirsch, one of the ultimate great investigative journalists of the 20th century. He'd taken on heavy duty stuff. And this was back in the 90s. I think he's still alive. And I was actually getting him on the phone and I said, Mr. Hirsch, boy, this issue is the biggest story. And would you like to talk about it? Would you like to get into it? And he basically said in so many words, I can't go there. Right. I'm going, okay. And I tried to approach Bob Woodward, one of the great investigative journalists. I was trying to speak to him and he gone. He didn't say a word. He just immediately split. Okay. It's okay. But now it's starting to happen. One of the reasons there's a new journalism in town.
Again, today isn't yesterday. No, I mean, for real. I know that's become kind of a stupid, clicky cliche. But That's the reality. The journalism even of today is simply not like it was a decade ago. And that makes a huge difference. There's many things different today that has, after hearing this interview, that has built my enthusiasm once again. I feel like I'm on a roller coaster, you know. There's some days when I wake up and I'm so depressed and it's never going to happen. And oh my gosh, I don't know anything. And then there's other days where I'm saying, wow, the stuff I've learned, the incredible contexts and the hope for this full disclosure, etc. So yeah, we're on a roller coaster, and you know, if you can't hack it, get off it and go to a more interesting subject, I guess. I don't know, but none of us are going to, because this is, like Steve Bassett and everyone else has said who's been investigating this, this is the biggest issue facing our collective on our planet. And it's worth it.
That is advancing this issue that is almost at the point where we don't need superstar journalists to wrap this up. And it's called the internet. It's called social media, which includes a lot of stuff. And I think the most recent member of this group, relatively more recent, okay, is what I refer to as the podcast army. You had broadcast.com, which started the trend of being able to have radio broadcast on the internet. I forget who founded it. They made a lot of money, became a billionaire. But then, because of, well, the power of the internet and the ability to get very high quality, cheap cameras and mics and everything else, suddenly people realize, wait a minute, I can be a journalist. And before you know it, there are now millions of podcasts. And this issue is very popular. And so the podcast army is constantly putting out a stream of interviews on this information relentlessly. And there's some that are better known than others. And there are some that are superstars. And then there are mega podcasts, or whatever you want to call it, such as Joe Rogan, who take on the issue. And so now those podcasts, which are even more powerful, I can assure you, than a typical NBC news program or CNN and so forth. When a Joe Rogan takes on the issue, it may get 10, 15, 20 million followers, even if it's just part of an interview. And so this is one of the reasons why the truth embargo is cooked.
Critically important and really quite exciting. We just have to keep towing the line, because it has made it inevitable. And I'm not using that word lightly. I'm not using this philosophical approach lightly at all. I'm not just saying this to go rah, rah, ree, yay, team, let's boogie and do this. We are making a difference, and it is forced. It's going to be forced to happen. Yeah, we've heard it all. We've already heard that. Nothing new. How many tens of thousands of times have we seen that? Because it's the truth, except it's false. Because there is something new, and we're all a part of it. The internet wasn't here in the days of the Roswell crash. They were able to hide and lie and obfuscate, but they can't now. We genuinely, as a group, as a humanity, we have turned the corner, and we're on the last stretch to disclosure. No kidding. The first corner, we're going, oh my gosh, it's taking too long. You go around the end of the track in that second corner, and you go, oh my gosh, it's never going to happen. The third corner, and you're weeping and wailing and gnashing your teeth, and you're saying, oh my gosh, give us something new. Give us something new. It's the same old stuff. We've heard all this. The fourth corner, The finish line is in view, and it's inevitable disclosure is going to occur. Now, I agree. That's pretty optimistic. Yeah, you don't know that. I believe that much more strongly than when I first started doing this just a short while ago. Because of people like Steve Bassett. Because I'm getting to know several other YouTubers and podcasters. And because I've been watching their programs, the Richard Dolans, the Ross Coultharts, the Kristen Harloffs, so many I can't name that I love to watch pretty much on a daily basis. And I'm beginning to be able to add to the pressure of disclosure through information. And yes, I get it, through the repeating of what's been said before, but from my own point of view, which several people in my audience say is unique, they like it, etc. I'm not trying to toot my horn. I'm saying the more different YouTube channels that have to contribute to the overall larger pressure against the dam of stupidity and secrecy, it will break. And we got to be a part of that. Now, hot damn. I'm like a kid on Christmas morning about this. I really am. I know he said that last year. He said that about 2023. He said that about 2022. It's the same old song and dance. No, it's not. Every year there are changes making it more inevitable. And I'm thrilled that I'm going to be able to be here as a YouTube channel saying, see, I told you. I'm looking forward to that day, whenever that day is. I really do have a really high hope now that it's going to happen while we're all doing this YouTube thing and seeing all of the issues, like these drones, this crazy drone situation, and seeing how inept the governments of the world are now. You notice we're not nearly as patient with our governments now because we have worldwide coverage right now overnight because of this YouTube stuff as we were in the 1970s. It's a different day. And it's a different pressure. Tens of thousands of people called the governors and the mayors and the military and stuff, and they were forced to respond. They were forced. Yes, we put the pressure on them. That's exactly what we're doing about giving the witnesses to the UFOs protection so they can come out and be genuine whistleblowers without dying, right? So this is exciting for me. I'm just saying. Once again, I'm getting pumped up and excited.
It cannot possibly sustain itself against this massive expansion of journalism and interconnection that humans now have, that regular people have, in order to get information out. Now it's messy and there's abuses, but ultimately, and so I understood this as a relatively poor, not well-funded activist. I understood very early the power of podcasts, which is why I will do almost any podcast that asks me to do it. You have to be way out in you have to be way off somewhere for me to go, no. I have done hundreds and hundreds of them because, boy, how easy it is to do. It doesn't cost anything and you're getting a message out. And so congratulations to you for being part of the podcast army. I know you're helping to make a difference to end this embargo and bring about the most profound event in human history.
Thank you. Just getting started. The road ahead is pretty long, but it's quite an exciting journey. I'd love for you to expand on what you think disclosure will mean for humanity. I agree with you that it's probably one of the most important topics. What do you think will be some of the most important impacts that this information will have on how we live?
It's not one of the most important. It is the most important issue in the world today. Period. Everything else, well, the next important issue is a very distant second. All right. That's a 6-hour answer. Going to condense it down to about 6-7 minutes. There are approximately 200 billion stars in the Milky Way galaxy, and there's a.
Notice his long pause. Notice that question was asked in a matter of 10 seconds, and to properly answer it, because without full context, we wouldn't get the impact. And he said it would take 6 hours. And who among us would stay? Well, I absolutely would. I'm here to tell you, I would give this man 6 hours because I want to know the truth. But so many are too impatient. So many just say, just get on with it. There is no such thing. That's where we're misunderstanding the whole process here. There is no, just give me the answer quick. That's not how this works. Sorry. I know it probably make enough people mad that you're going to start unsubscribing from my channel. I can't prevent that. I wish you well if that's the route you choose. For the rest of us, we need to grasp the fact that a process is like the process of becoming an adult. Who among us, when we were 3 and 4, you remember that? Man, I wish I could wear my dad's shoes. I wish I was old enough to go get a job. We didn't understand what getting a job even meant. Never wish your life away. But you can't truncate 12 years into becoming an adult. Now that we're on this end, we wish 10 times harder that we could go get that youth back, but retain our knowledge that we own now. That's the idea here. This is a process. And I know, you're not telling me anything. Yawn, zzz, boring. Then go watch football. In the meantime, the rest of us are going to enjoy this process of full disclosure. And when it happens, if you really are that bored about it, you will miss it. And then you'll get to cry about it. I'm just saying. We're in it right now, man. It couldn't get better as far as I'm concerned.
Point of discussion. Okay. You still haven't got rid of the nukes. Let's talk. Now, that, of course, is a different ballgame because now the extraterrestrials have entered into the negotiations in a way. And I think that will dramatically help us come to a decision about, let's get rid of these nukes and start spending all that money on saving the human race and the ecosphere. Now, the next question that one might logically ask is, why this schedule? Why this pace? Why, as I believe, the open contact will happen around probably 2 years or less after we disclose worldwide that they're here, and nobody doubts it anymore. Well, except a few people that can't accept anything. Why that time frame? Well, there's only one answer I can give to that, but it's a good one, and that is this: there is, I think, a limit, a time limit to this engagement that we've been seeing since the 40s. And you may say, what is that? What would be significant enough that the ETs could not just take the attitude, look, take your time, whatever. If you blow yourselves up, fine. If you don't, fine, whatever. We're doing our thing. There is something. And it is absolutely common sense. You don't need to be a nuclear physicist to get this. Right? It's really very simple. If we were to build a starship or in any way find a way to get from one star system to another, I don't care how, but probably in a starship that has some pretty cool tech, and we decided to head on out where no man has gone before, we're taking those nuclear weapons with us and anything else we have, even in Star Trek, which is where we're going out to explore the universe and find out what is that there, and engage and get into wonderful arrangements with other civilizations. Those ships were all armed and they were always fighting each other, right? Everybody knows if we could go to Alpha Centauri, we're taking nukes with us just to be safe. The ETs know that too. Everything we've done for the last 70 years is confirmed to them, man, you will take those nukes. And if you're willing to nuke your own species, you were sure as hell willing to nuke anything. And so that is not going to happen. And that's the time delimiter.
I got right to the core of his entire talk in this interview, which I'm going to strongly encourage you. I'll put the link in the description to my video here. This is one of the deeply profound philosophical approaches to why we have a limited time to entirely eliminate our nuclear weapons, or the ETs will take us over and we will lose our sovereignty. That's why this is such a deeply profound issue for our freedoms. They aren't here for evil. They are here to try to prevent our ultimate evil, destroying the earth, the life-giving properties of this really unique planet. We are so goddamn arrogant and ignorant that we are willing to destroy this thing of magnificence and beauty for just a little bit of cash and power. It's embarrassing to be human in some regards, but we have to find a way to get rid of the weapons of mass destruction, or we're not going to be allowed to be part of the galactic family, and then we will be controlled with the fetters and chains around our necks. We're not there yet because that is not E.T.'s desire, according to him. But it's going to be the effect if we don't pull our heads right out of our butts and prove to this superior power that we have the willpower and the way to become part of the peaceful cosmic family. And if not, then we'll become the dogs for them to pet and control. It is our choice. That's the essence of this interview. Now, I've shortened it dramatically. I would strongly encourage you to see how Steve Bassett brings this about and in such a wonderful, optimistic manner, where I do have hope that we as a human family can accomplish this tremendous challenge. So thanks for watching my Backyard Professor Respawns of videos. I will be back with more as I can. In the meantime, don't sneeze your brains out. Make lots of friends. Be happy. Do well. And try hard to become more loving. Your future, your children's future, and your grandchildren's future really does depend on that. All joking aside, it is time to become more loving, not more powerful. It is time to become more wise, not more smart. And it is time to become more forgiving, not more divided. May the force be with us.